Good morning, everybody. Pastor Rick here, Broadman Baptist Church. This is the Broadman Word for June 2nd, 2021. Today's Broadman Word comes to you from the devotional Radical Wisdom. My thoughts on this particular subject, final words and breaking hearts. So if you were to ask most Christians anyway, what they want to hear after they die, Matthew 25:23 probably is what most of them are going to tell you. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Not a bad goal, but you'd have to wonder why it's that a lot of people focus on and wanting to hear when they're done. The words are not a biblical promise, and it's not even a principle. It's actually from a parable. Of course, it's spoken by Jesus, so it is scripturally sound and definitely to be considered, but it's not a direct promise of God. When we get to the great beyond it, that we're going to hear that. So what's the impetus for this? Well, we all want to think that we've done well, that we've served well, that we've been in God's will, and that we'll be on God's mind when we show up at heaven, and that we will be rewarded with that wonderful statement about how well we've done. But in reality, our righteous acts are not to be counted that well. It's more of a heart issue and aligning your heart with God. In fact, Isaiah 64:6 says something that a few of us have a little trouble with. It says that our righteous acts are like filthy rags. Now, does that mean that we don't do all the things that we need to do, that we don't serve, that we don't offer, that we don't evangelize, that we don't carry out a ministry because they're just righteous acts? No. That is not what Isaiah is saying. What he's saying is that it's the heart that led you to do those things that is what's important. The acts themselves, our desire to hear this well done statement, can't be based in acts of works. It can't be based on achievements or some sort of spiritual checklist that then we can use to cash in when we arrive at the gates of heaven, and that we get to show that to somebody and we hear, well done, good and faithful servant. So what do we want to do then? Understand that righteous acts are not really going to cut it. You should spend more time on focusing on your heart and the relationship that you have with God based on your heart. The cross is everything for us. Our hope of heaven is very simply single-threaded through Jesus' death and resurrection, and not our righteous acts. There's nothing we can do to work or earn our way into heaven. So busying ourselves with ministries and all kinds of acts because we think that we're earning something or that we are doing something to get the well done statement is not the way to go about this. The way to go about it is to have a heart that leads you to do those things. And so they will be truly valued righteousness, truly valued acts of ministry and service, and offering and caring for others, connectedness, all the things that we talk about in church all the time. But so then there is an alternative to the well done statement. What if instead of trying to focus on that, we were greeted by God with this? Welcome. I'm glad to see you. You're one of my favorites because there on earth, your heart broke for the same things my heart broke for. See, when you think of it that way, instead of just earning this favorite statement of well done, when you think about God welcoming you to heaven because your heart broke for the same things that broke his heart, then you know that your heart was aligned with his, that you were in his will, that you were living a spirit-led scriptural existence, and that the things that you did were out of a loving heart for God and a desire to honor and glorify him here on earth through you. That's a whole different story than simply being very busy with ministry and things of the church. So how do then we pursue the things that break God's heart? How do I pursue what God's heart breaks for would be the big question. You can ask him. We have direct access to God in prayer. It could be a simple question in prayer. Lord, you know what I have, you know where I live, you know who I know, and you know what I'm good at. What is it in my world that breaks your heart? Very simple question. Could be lifted up in prayer, could be lifted up in a devotional time. You could just sort of keep it on your mind throughout a day. What in this situation breaks God's heart, and what can I do about it? And does it break my heart as well? If we can take on that mindset, that broken-hearted mindset, in view in any given situation where we are throughout our day, with that question first, what here breaks God's heart? Does it break my heart? And what can I do here as one of his ambassadors? What can I do here as a Christian, a believing Christian, that might ease God's heart in the situation? Ask God what he would have you do. After you ask that question, what breaks your heart? What would you have me do here, Lord? And then have the courage, have the intentionality, have the loving desire to honor his name and do the thing that he shows you to do. It will increase your closeness with God. It will increase the effectiveness of your earthly ministry, whatever that might look like. It will move the good purposes of God forward in the kingdom because it is in his will, but it's also in your heart. His will is in your heart. And that's where the difference can be. And that will get you the Matthew 25:23 statement when we are done here and we get called home to rest finally. So, have you asked God in serious prayer to break your heart for a particular person, a particular people group, a need perhaps in the community or in the church, a specific cause that he might want you to get engaged in, things that he wants you to connect to, people he wants you to connect to? And then finally, like all things, we have free will. So the last question is, will you ask God what breaks his heart and to break yours for the very same thing? Then go about reconciling that as you reconcile the world to the cross, because the cross is everything. Hey, listen, I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you, and I'll see you next time.